And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lowdown Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin of Lakers Daily, Lakers Insider for Lakers Daily. And today on the show, we are going to be talking about, I dropped a piece, Lakers Daily and I dropped a piece earlier this week about the vibes in the locker room. I will offer up some context on that piece as far as the tone of it and kind of the timing of it, and then some of the fallout from the recent couple games where obviously the vibes are down a little bit because the Lakers have lost. I'm going to talk also, I was just kind of randomly thinking about this today, and seeing as this is my show, I guess I just get to do that. I get to take my random wanderings and musings and bring them here to the show, but the Lakers could wind up giving up their first-round pick to the New Orleans Pelicans this year. I want to talk about some of what is going into that decision from the Pelicans side, some of what I'm hearing on that front as well, and how the Lakers would handle it if the Pelicans do decide to move that pick. Or take that pick, I guess is what I should say. And then finally, if there's some time after those two topics, I am going to dive into the comment section, dive into the iTunes mailbag. We do have a question from there, and answer your questions as well. So if you guys have any questions, best way to get them on the show is to leave them in the form of a 5-star review on iTunes. Those things really do help the show, so I appreciate that. And then, if you leave a comment or obviously a super comment, I will get to those questions as well. For those of you who are watching live on Twitter, please do head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the show there. That is youtube.com/@LakersLounge. If you are watching live on YouTube right now, go ahead, look down your window a little bit and click on that subscribe button as well. And if you are listening in the morning to this in podcast version, in podcast form, please do hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcasts, preferably Odyssey, and let's continue building this thing as well. You know what else helps? Tell your friends. We're heading into the playoffs. People want to know what they may have missed this season. I do think that listeners of this show are probably going to be about as informed on this season as you can possibly be. So that's something that I am pretty proud and take a lot of pride in. So if you guys want to help your friends or family, your neighbors or strangers be informed on these Los Angeles Lakers, please do tell them about this show. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into my latest piece. Again, that is for LakersDaily.com. All right, so first and foremost, I'm going to drop the link in the comment section here, so that if you want to kind of come along for the ride here, you can. That is now in the comment section here for those of you who are watching live on YouTube. First and foremost, I want to talk about the timing here, right? One, I wrote this, or I guess I began writing this and reporting for my writing process here last week when things were significantly better. Obviously, Anthony Davis hadn't taken yet another blow to the head. LeBron James hadn't gotten sick yet. The Lakers hadn't lost the two games that they have that they have just lost. And things were going pretty well. Like you felt like you had a decent chance at the 6th seed, and maybe just maybe the Lakers would be able to miraculously salvage a season that didn't feature a trip to the play-in tournament. Obviously, things look significantly different now, and they did look different at the time of this article finally dropping, which was the 8th. Which 2 days ago, so that was Monday, is when this piece dropped. So the writing process and all of that stuff started last Wednesday, I would say, and then after writing it and editing it and fully packaging it across the website and across all of Lakers Daily socials, it dropped on Monday. So things kind of changed over the course of that process. So if there's anything that kind of seems somewhat off in the tone, I think that would kind of help explain it. The other thing that I want to say here is um, it feels somewhat prescient, the writing here. I didn't mean for it to play out this way. But essentially the general tone of this piece and the general message of this piece is that while things are significantly better, or were at the time of my writing this significantly better in the locker room, because Rui Hachimura has been in the starting lineup, because those five guys from last year's core who are healthy, have been relied upon to much greater extents than they have been over the course of the season. Those guys have been waiting all year and had been waiting all year for this kind of an opportunity, and they finally got it, and they have really relished in that opportunity. And you've seen the results of it, right? And you saw the results of it these last two games notwithstanding. The Lakers, I thought, really competed with Minnesota even after Anthony Davis went down and LeBron James wasn't available. I thought they really competed against the Golden State Warriors last night without Anthony Davis and with a sick LeBron James. The Lakers have been able to take care of business in some games that they wouldn't have, I think, earlier in the year, because playing your best five players together turns out that gives you more margin for error and allows you to win some of the games that you have some shenanigans that take place over the course of that game. So that essentially was like the message that I wanted to convey, is that once Rui went into the starting lineup, and especially once they started winning as a result of Rui going into the starting lineup, things in the locker room really picked up. Now, while that is the case, and still I think remains the case, there are still people in that locker room, whether it be players, whether it be other people in the organization, who are still kind of looking sideways at Darvin Ham for, like, one, taking so long to get to that lineup being your starting group, and two, wondering, well, did those bad habits fully dissipate, right? And as we have found out, especially in this last game against the Golden State Warriors, those habits came back in roaring fashion. And as Raj and I talked about in yesterday's episode right after the game, which I did split up into two episodes for today because it was an hour and a half long conversation that Raj and I had. It was basically a vent session. But as Raj and I talked about, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, maybe the most important 3 minutes and 30 seconds of your season, took place with the lineup of D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, Spencer Dinwiddie, Taurean Prince, and Jackson Hayes. So of your five best players, now one of your five best players wasn't available. Anthony Davis didn't play in yesterday's game. But the other, you had one of your top five best players in that lineup, that being D'Angelo Russell. And the other three were sitting for that one: LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, and Austin Reeves. It was befuddling in the moment and has only become more and more maddening since, especially given that after the game, when Darvin Ham was asked about the game, his analysis of it consisted basically of, well, they made shots. What can you do? Well, one thing you could do, one idea that I'm just like throwing out there, Darvin, is, play your best players. One, just like season them in, right? In that game, given the importance of that game, at no point should three of your starters be sitting all at the same time. That cannot happen. Like, two of D'Lo, Austin, Rui, and LeBron needed to be on the court for the entirety of that game. You needed to treat it like a playoff game, and the Lakers basically ran with a 10-man rotation that you would see early in the year, right? As you try to figure out what Gabe Vincent is capable of. I think it's probably time to ditch the Gabe Vincent experiment altogether. Like, I don't think I don't think he looks right physically. I don't think he fully trusts his body. He hasn't been able to get into a rhythm. He doesn't know when to shoot and when not to shoot, when to attack a closeout, when not, all of those things. He just doesn't look right. And trying to make it work with him, I think, has affected Spencer Dinwiddie. It's affected Austin Reeves, and it's affected D'Angelo Russell, and it's made you smaller in your rotation. So, the Lakers all year, ask anybody who has watched this team play more than like 20 games, and they will tell you, even if they barely know anything about basketball, shit, you don't even have to know anything about basketball. Like, all you need to know is, like, in sports, is it an advantage to be bigger? Generally, yes. Okay, cool. In basketball, especially so, it really helps to be bigger and stronger. And yet the Lakers, once Gabe came back, went back to being smaller and weaker and not able to shoot, right? Because Gabe Vincent can't shoot, Cam Reddish can't shoot, and Spencer Dinwiddie is kind of inconsistent there. So not only are you smaller and weaker than your opponent now, or even if you aren't that, if you aren't those things compared to your opponent, you're certainly not as strong, not as big as the Lakers could possibly be. You've actually made yourself a worse shooting team by playing Gabe Vincent out there. He's made 2 threes all season, 2 of them. You watching right now, you and me, we're talking right now, wherever you are. You and I have made 2 fewer 3-pointers this year than Gabe Vincent. And if you're an NBA player who happens to be watching, accidentally or whatever, you've probably made more 3-pointers than Gabe Vincent. You and I probably combined for more 3-pointers than Gabe Vincent. And it just isn't working. And so anyway, going back to the piece here, I wanted to spend some time on some highlights that either have gotten aggregated since, and kind of offer up a little extra context to those details. Maybe explain a couple things as well, but we'll do all of that here in a second. So the first things first, the lead on this, the message on this is that things improved immediately once Rui Hachimura was inserted into the starting lineup, not just in terms of like the caliber of basketball that the Lakers were playing, but also the mood in the locker room. Like, I am told by multiple sources, the mood picked up immediately, right? There has been some kind of, again, sideways glances at Darvin, especially as the Lakers were succeeding. We've all had, whether it's a coach or a manager or whatever, who we know doesn't mess with us, right? We know that, like, if it's a coach that we don't respect or doesn't or feel like that coach isn't going to give us the opportunity that we feel that we should get, right? When you finally do get that opportunity and you succeed, and it's in human nature to basically look at that coach that has held you back, right, and say, like, see what we could have been doing this whole time. By the way, the Clippers and the Suns are currently tied at 20 with 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. And a whole bunch of Clippers aren't playing in this one. Thanks, a-holes. But like, that's essentially like mostly positive vibes once Rui started playing, and the negative vibes haven't come in any way, shape, or form from the people who have been, removed from that starting group. Taurean Prince has kept his head up and handled being replaced by Rui Hachimura in the starting lineup really, really well, I am told. Sure, yeah, the competitor in him would have liked to keep playing there, but the Lakers started winning once he was swapped out for Rui, and credit goes to Prince for, at the very least, continuing to play hard and continuing to focus on the things that help the Lakers win basketball games. It's why the Lakers have such a good record when he is in that like 16 to 24 minute range, because he can focus on those small things. He doesn't feel like he has to pace himself to be able to get to the 30 or so minutes that he was playing earlier in the season. And he's become, I think, a much better player, a much more impactful player since he's been put into this kind of bench role. So like the quote unquote negative vibes or any negative vibe that could be there hasn't come in the form of like, disappointment that they aren't that player X hasn't been in, doesn't have the role that they used to have. I know Cam Reddish was a little frustrated there for a little bit. But like for the most part, the vast majority of the of the Lakers locker room, everybody in there basically is saying like, yeah, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the run that we feel like we can go on, and it's because they're finally starting the right guys. The only, I'll say, non-positive vibes or sentiment that is somewhat widely held in the locker room is, like I said, those five guys, once they got together, started playing together, and started succeeding together, they have certainly still, I don't think anybody in there still, fully trusts Darvin, right? I think he lost their trust, and I think they are now playing for each other far more than they are currently playing for Darvin Ham. And as a result, right, that's where that sentiment comes from, right? Where those guys get together, they play well, and after they play well, and when they go on these runs, or when they win these games, or when they rack up the amount of wins that they have done since Rui has starting, they have essentially every few steps or so along the way here been like, we could have done this all year. We didn't have to be in the 10 seed right now. And they're right. The people who feel that way are absolutely right. Whether it's players, whether it's the people surrounding those players, whether it's people in the organization, whether it's assistant coaches, whatever, janitors, the people who fans, the people who feel that way are objectively correct. It took too long to start relying on last year's core, and as a result, the Lakers have used up all of their margin for error and now appear heading towards, a situation where you need to win 2 road elimination games to merely make it into the playoffs. And I think the biggest reason for that isn't injuries. Like I saw there were some pieces out there. It's like, well, you see, they only did, this just goes to show the Lakers haven't been healthy all year. No, 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 nope, nope, nope. They've had LeBron James, they've had Anthony Davis for far more games than, not only have they played together in their regular seasons to this point, during this LeBron and AD era, but also they've played together, I think, as much, if not more than most superstar duos in the league, right? We're watching the Clippers and the Suns play right now, right? And the Suns, it took them 40 games or so to finally get their 3 main guys, their 3 max guys playing together. And I'm not here for any excuses about it. It can be explanations. You can explain some of what's gone on here with some of the with injuries, and that can be that can be one of the factors. But I think the factor, the reason that the Lakers are where they are right now, is because of coaching. It's because of rotations. It's because of inconsistency in terms of when they run sets and when they don't. Friend of the show, Tim from the Lakers Exceptionalism Pod, has done a fantastic job all year tracking and offering up the data on not just how often the Lakers are running sets, but like the difference in what they are doing, what they are producing when they run sets versus when they don't. It's really stark, and it makes it that much more frustrating that it's been so inconsistent this year. That execution has been so inconsistent, but also I think that giant gap between what they do when they are, executing sets and running sets, right? What they do there, the offense is elite when they do those things. But then it's also really bad when they don't do those things. And I think it's really bad when they don't do those things because at no point this year has Darvin and the rest of the coaching staff implemented like underlying and fundamental principles that would elevate. You're always going to, like, the offense is always going to produce more when you run sets. When you run organized offense, it's always going to be better. but that drop off doesn't have to be that steep. And the part, the reason that it is that steep is because when the Lakers start freelancing, God knows what the end result is going to be. There is no goal in mind. Then it's just like, I guess Taurean Prince is going to get an opportunity in ISO. Taurean Prince should never get opportunities in ISO, right? I guess we're just going to matchup hunt and not have any motion on the backside while player X is in the post with the matchup problem that hopefully, forces a double team or forces a trap or whatever. But if that trap comes, there isn't a basic understanding of where the ball should go, where the cut should go, right? How to beat that pressure, right? The pressure beaters, the pressure on, the pressure valves that you can kind of open up and open things up for whoever is being trapped right there. Those basic principles haven't been implemented this year on either side of the ball, by the way, right? Like last night, the Lakers go small. And when the Lakers went small, you would say, okay, so you're small. There isn't an advantage gained when somebody screens another small, somebody who is guarded by a small person screens, because the person who's getting screened is also small. You may as well just switch. And no, the Lakers were in deep drop, even when they were small, they were in drop coverage. That can't happen, right? You want to trap, you want to ice, you want to switch, you want to do all of these things. Trapping is tough because it's really easy to throw the ball over the top of traps when it is a small group out there. But like you know what I'm saying? Like it can't be. You can't be so devoid of fundamental principles when you freelance, when you operate on defense, that the Lakers look as disorganized as they do, or unorganized, or whatever, not organized as they do when they freelance. So, when I say that there's annoyance with Darvin, even as the vibes are better, those are the reasons why. Another tidbit here that I saw it got aggregated that an Eastern Conference scout was happy that the Lakers finally started Rui after they had played both of their games against that Eastern. That is 100% true. The text that I received about when Darvin was asked about the change in the lineup and the immediate results from the change in the lineup and whether he would have done that earlier, right? I was getting texts all through that press conference, and one of the texts that I got was like, "This dude better not try to take credit for this in any real way. We have been begging for this all year." But I thought this was a detail that I thought kind of went under the radar. Rob Pelinka's role in all of this. Early on in the piece, I wrote that. Yeah. Internally, it's worth noting not everyone has necessarily moved on from Ham's weird decisions earlier this season. Winning tends to cure all, but it hasn't necessarily wiped everyone's mind clean of that first half of the season when Ham tried combination after combination, at times benching Hachimura, Reeves, or Russell. Even still, Taurean Prince has averaged more minutes per game over the season than Hachimura. When Ham was asked a couple weeks ago about how long it took to insert Hachimura into the starting lineup and the resulting run, he launched into a full diatribe to excuse his decisions. Shortly thereafter, one source close to the situation texted, "He'd better not take full credit for this like it was some kind of masterstroke. We've all been asking to give those guys a look all season." Rob Pelinka has to be breathing a sigh of relief, as some sources have sensed some apprehension when conversations steer towards Ham. Things have never neared the point of a change, to be clear, but some have noticed that that Pelinka, one of Ham's most ardent supporters, has been wondering when the coach would rely on the guys he just invested in last summer. So essentially, Pelinka has stood by and has made it known that he stands with Darvin Ham all season. Whether that's in conversations behind the scenes, conversations that he purposely leaks, and all of those things. But even still, some of the people that I've spoken to who have had conversations with Rob have also noticed, like, him starting to distancing himself from Ham is strong. That's not quite it, but there has been some unease in terms of when they ask him, why hasn't Rui been starting all this time? I've had multiple people say that they've asked Rob that question and come away from that conversation like he doesn't know either. He's been waiting for it too. And that I think is really interesting, and I thought kind of flew under the radar from this piece. Again, Rob was never going to fire Darvin this season. I do think that is I am told that that is a conversation that is going to be had immediately once this season ends. As far as, is Darvin the guy for the job? They are going to field input from players, from other people throughout the organization, scouts, all of that stuff. And that is, the outcome of those conversations are obviously going to go a long way in whether this can be a successful offseason. I don't think you can have a successful offseason if Darvin Ham is the head coach at the beginning of next year. You can't. It doesn't matter what the Lakers do, personnel wise. I don't trust that person. I don't trust Darvin Ham to put guys in position to succeed. And even beyond how I feel about it, from what I've been told, the guys that are there playing for him have also been like they don't believe in the guy. He lost to them. And that how things go here, not just over the last few games that the Lakers have, but also in terms of their play-in opportunities, how those things go and the response to adversity that the Lakers put forth is going to be, I think, pretty telling here. Not just in terms of like how those guys feel about the opportunity to play together, but also how much they trust their head coach to press the right buttons when the time comes. Because last night was a huge opportunity and it fell by the wayside, not just because Anthony Davis didn't play, not just because Draymond Green was was crazy hot from outside and the rest of the Warriors also were, but because Darvin also made things more difficult on the Lakers because of his, incessant dependence on tiny little people in a sport that doesn't exactly favor tiny little people. Yeah, that's about it as far as, details here from it. I do hope that you guys check it out and read that piece and, give me input. If you have any questions on it, let me know. And if I have time here at the end of the show, I will get to it. The next thing that I wanted to talk about here before I get into my question from iTunes and your guys' super comments is the situation here with the Pelicans and whether or not they are going to take the Lakers up on or not take the Lakers up, but actually swap picks with the Lakers. Obviously, the Pelicans higher up in the seedings than the Lakers, right? And as a result, you can now swap those picks. It would be funny if somehow the Pelicans decided to swap picks in a year that the Lakers have a better pick than the Pelicans, but essentially their decision boils down to a few factors. One, the caliber of the draft this year compared to next year. Next year's draft, according to everybody that I've spoken to, is quite a bit better than this year's draft. This year's draft is not great. It's not as terrible as maybe once we once thought, but it's still like there is no Wembanyama, there is no overwhelming prospect. Hell, I don't even think there's necessarily a consensus first pick in this year's draft. You look at mock drafts, and you're probably going to see a lot of differing opinions on who should be taken first overall this year. So that's one factor is this year's pick with this year's draft class. The second factor, right, is will LeBron pick up his player option? And if he doesn't, is he turning down that player option with the intent to sign a longer deal with the Lakers, right? If he doesn't pick up that option, obviously the chances and departs, obviously that pick next year becomes probably the most valuable asset in the sport. And you know, the Pelicans would be over the moon if they decided to gamble on that potential outcome. And they're going to do all of the digging that they can possibly do to figure out the chances that LeBron departs, whether it's via free agency or asks for a trade, which I'm still told is very unlikely. But you never know with LeBron. And like we saw this with his second departure from Cleveland. I remember covering it where there were people in Cleveland who were strident, who were like livid at anybody who would dare mention the possibility that LeBron James would leave. There were people in LA who were that type of strident about the possibility he was going to leave, right? And anybody who, basically the two ends of the spectrum there. I remember saying this a bunch back. I think this was back when I was still at Locked On Lakers. Um, you know, essentially the only way to be wrong back then or to come off as wrong back then was to ignore the possibility on the other side, right? If you thought that LeBron was going to stay, you probably should also feel like there's a chance he was going to go. If you thought LeBron was going to leave, you should probably feel like there was still a very good chance that he could stay. Right? It was still Cleveland. He won a championship there. And I think this time around, I do think it's far more likely that he sticks around than he goes, but I'm not willing to say it's 100% certain that LeBron James is going to be a Laker next year. And as that might be the case, that makes this decision here for the Pelicans a lot more interesting, right? Now, tough thing for the Pelicans is that by the time LeBron needs to make that decision or does make that decision, the draft will have already taken place. And that's not ideal, right? If I think my timing is right on that. I'm going to talk to Aaron about that on Friday. But when LeBron makes that decision, the Pelicans will have already had to make their choice. So do they gamble on the possibility that LeBron leaves, or do they take the pick that they know they have right now, right? Is a bird in the hand indeed better than two in the bush? The other factor that is going to play a role here is what the Lakers do with Darvin Ham. This isn't to say that like the Pelicans or the league looks at this as this kind of linear, but in my opinion, if the Lakers bring back Darvin Ham, there's a good chance that they are worse next year than they were this year, right? Because decent chance that you don't have LeBron as healthy as he was this year. Decent chance that he and Anthony Davis don't play as much together as they did this year. And if that is the case, and Darvin Ham is still the coach, then the Lakers are, by definition, a worse team, right? And that's another one that I think that would be something that the Pelicans would know a lot sooner, because if the Lakers do make a decision on Darvin Ham and do decide to fire him, that would be done pretty early in the offseason so that they would have the best chance to go out and get whoever it is that they want to hire. The final factor here, if you're New Orleans, is do you want to gamble on the Lakers roster next year being better than it is this year, right? And I would say that uh, the Lakers have more than enough ammunition in terms of picks, workable contracts, right? Desirable players that the Lakers could, if they wanted to, pursue a third star. They can do that. They will do that, right? I'm told the Lakers will pursue a third star, whether it's Trae Young or Donovan Mitchell, somebody who league circles are kind of pointing to as much more a possibility for the Lakers than is talked about. But the Lakers are going to try to go out and get a third star. And if they are successful in doing that, and you're the Pelicans and you elected to take next year's pick versus this year, I'd be curious how they feel about that, and even if the Lakers don't, by the way, get a third star, they are probably going to use those picks that they have at their disposal to try to upgrade their role player situations and bring in a more two-way player than they currently have right now, right? Austin Reeves is a great offensive player, but he can be kind of inconsistent defensively, right? Rui Hachimura has been really good offensively, and he finally started rebounding, and that's really kind of ignited the rest of his game. But he started rebounding, right? He hasn't been rebounding all year, and his defense has also been inconsistent this year. D'Angelo Russell just doesn't play defense, generally speaking, and that is something that impacts what you're capable of doing out there. So if you turn one of those role players into a better two-way player, my pick personally, the guy I'm hoping for is Mikal Bridges. And even if it isn't like Jared Vanderbilt, right, is the inverse of those guys. Great defensive player, great little things guy, awful offensively. And so if you basically convert one or two of those guys into somebody who can impact the game on both ends of the court, then you are now a much better team than you were last year. And the Pelicans, if you're the Pelicans, do you want to wait to see if they're able to do those things? And chances are the Lakers will be able to do that in some way, shape, or form. I think they will probably have a better roster than they had this year. They won't be hard capped, for one thing. I don't think the Lakers are going to make that mistake again. Even though that this is technically the second time they've made it. Anyway, though all of those things are going to come together, and to me personally, this isn't reporting or whatever. This is speculation on my part. I think the Pelicans would be wise to take the pick this year. I know that the gamble is there, and I know that there are certainly factors that would lead you to believe that it's in your best interest to wait and see if that lottery ticket really conveys next year. But if the Lakers do improve next year, and if, you're hoping that Zion, turns it around or whatever, and you're hoping that Brandon Ingram and he figure out how to play together more consistently, and you continue this rise, right? They're better this year than they were last year. If that all continues, great. And look, it should also be pointed out here, you don't, like, if they don't take it this year and the Lakers are better than the Pelicans next year, it's not like the Pelicans have to take that pick swap there. I believe it just goes away, and the Pelicans would just get the pick next year. That's why the Lakers, if they don't give the pick this year, you can essentially plan around giving up the pick next year. You are going to, and that's why the Lakers would have 3 first-round picks that they can move no matter what the Pelicans decide to do here. The Lakers are going to have 3 first-round picks on draft night to improve their team. The nice thing also is draft night is now 2 nights, so the Lakers are going to have more time to execute some of whatever they might consider doing here with those 3 first-round picks on draft night. So all of that is to say, my gut is that, is telling me that the Pelicans take it. Most people that I talk to around the league still seem to think that they also seem to think that the Pelicans take it this year. But there are worse gambles to make than on a 40-year-old superstar in any sport. not taking a step back, or just not being on that team at all. If LeBron goes and the Pelicans decided to keep that pick, then the Lakers are screwed. Absolutely screwed. Fucked. It is. You are in a world of hurt if the Pelicans make that gamble and it pays off to that extent. But is that worth it if you're the Pelicans to basically forego what could be a lottery pick this year? The Lakers, if they lose in the play-in, right, that becomes a lottery pick. That becomes, a pick that could climb up the ranks. And the Pelicans have had some luck in the lottery in the past. So especially with Lakers picks, I'm not bitter at all at the fact that Anthony Davis just so happened to go to the Pelicans after that whole fiasco there, right? But yeah, I would say that actually Zion Williamson, right? They won the lottery after they traded Anthony Davis to the Lakers, right? So yeah, if you're the Pelicans, these are all gambles that you have to really consider. And I personally, maybe it's me being conservative or whatever, but I would probably just take the pick this year personally. And look, it would suck for the Lakers to basically go through this year, be as mediocre as the Lakers have been, and then also have to give up a lottery pick to the Pelicans after all of it. That would drive me bananas. But, that's the spot that the Lakers find themselves in. And by the way, the reward for giving up that lottery pick after all of this mediocrity is you got Anthony Davis and you won a championship. And I think I would make that trade a zillion times out of a zillion. All right, let's start with the iTunes mailbag. Again, if you want to get your topic on the show, the best way to do so is to leave it in the form of a 5-star review on iTunes. The question here is from Burger of Justice. Could you see the Lakers sign and trading D'Lo for Mikal Bridges? Could be a win for everyone. Lakers get a 3rd star without sacrificing wing depth. Nets get picks. D'Lo gets paid, and Genie gets us hard capped at the first apron. Also, Raj wouldn't lose JHS. Look, if you're getting Mikal Bridges, you're probably giving up JHS. You're probably giving up 2 first-rounders, my guess. I don't think you need to trade 3 first-rounders for Bridges. I just don't think he's that caliber of a player where you have to do that. So yeah, man, in terms of players, I'd be willing to hard cap myself. I don't think you even hard cap yourself there, because generally the team that gets hard capped is the team that brings in the newly signed player. I have to triple check that with Aaron. That part always kind of confuses me, but I don't necessarily think the Lakers would be hard capped there because they would be bringing in the currently signed player. So that personally would be best case scenario, right? I like D'Lo. I'm really happy about the season that he's had for the Lakers. It's cool that he was able to kind of come back and write a fun final chapter in his about his time with the Lakers and all of those things. But it depends on how the playoffs go or whatever, but he's just too inconsistent for my liking. And if you could turn him into Mikal Bridges, and now all of a sudden you go into next year with, Reeves, Bridges, and Rui and LeBron and AD, like that is good Lord. You just heard me like giggle. That would be like the best case scenario for me. So that's the direction I would prefer to go in. I'm not necessarily on board with giving up everything, right? Giving up Reeves and giving up the all of the first rounders that you have, probably pick swaps in the future as well, and everything that you would need to trade to get a Trae Young or to get a Donovan Mitchell. That trade makes me nervous. I also am much more of a fan of the 2 superstars and really good role players and depth beyond that roster construction than, 3 max contracts and a whole bunch of, well, we hope this minimum works out. That's the direction that I would prefer to go in. And if the Lakers were able to do that, now we'll have to see what the Brooklyn Nets decide to do, right? Are they finally going to kind of accept reality and finally rebuild? That'd be great if they do. If they don't, then this whole thing has been moot. But fingers crossed, that would be great. All right, let's go into the super comments here, and we have a few, which means. Oops. All right, the first one here comes from Justin Tyndall, right? If Bus doesn't fire Ham, she's worse than him, and winning isn't her main priority. Man, worse than him. Yeah, probably, because look, here's what I'll say about Jeannie. Winning is her top priority. Yeah, you have to balance the books, and yeah, the Lakers have to be more frugal than we would like them to be because of the financial situation with the Bus Trust Fund. But I never, ever, ever get the sense in talking to anybody who converses with Jeannie Buss that her top priorities 1 through 3 are to win basketball games and to bring championships to the Lakers. Now, that doesn't mean that she can make wrong decisions, right? Like when they made the Russell Westbrook trade, it's not like the people who were responsible for it did so because they were hoping that wouldn't work out. They thought that was the best thing that they could do to win a championship. Unfortunately, they were wrong. They were wrong right from the get-go, and it, may have slammed shut the window that the Lakers had for winning a championship with LeBron James. But I never get the sense that Jeannie Buss, doesn't care about winning basketball and bringing championships to LA. All right, let's go into the next one here. I think that's the next one. Nope, I don't think it is. We'll go. Brandon Omeng has one, which means Kings 1-2, Warriors 2-1. Can the Lakers get the 8th seed? They can, but I don't know. Like mathematically, I know what it would take, but it's definitely a long shot. And so long as the Lakers continue to try out this Gabe Vincent thing, I think they've made themselves worse, and I trust them less than I did before he returned to the lineup. The next one comes in, and it's a good size one. So shouts to this commenter who is named Callie Reclined. What type of player do you think would fit next to AD and LeBron? In my opinion, a two-way player who's young and can play both sides. Jaime Jaquez. JK, also, who do you think is the ideal available player next season? Is it not Miles Bridges? I want to stay as far away from Miles Bridges as possible. But Mikal Bridges is like really high up on dangerously high up on my wish list, because I don't think it costs as much to get him asset-wise, and he is just perfect for what the Lakers need, right? A longer perimeter defender, knocks down three-pointers, has some creative chops. We already know that he and Reeves get along really well together. He spaces the floor for LeBron and AD. He can be like the second best, or the 2A or 2B after LeBron leaves. If you're looking to build after LeBron and you have Anthony Davis still, I would love Mikal Bridges. Unfortunately, the Nets love Mikal Bridges, and it's going to be kind of difficult to go out and get him. And by the way, the rest of the league loves Mikal Bridges. He's the perfect 3-and-D wing. Like he is miscast as the best player on a team. I don't think your team is very good if he is your best player, But if he is like your second or third best player, certainly third best player, like the Suns made it to the finals because he was their third best player, right? Or second best, whatever it was. And they by the way, they really miss him, right? I think the Suns are worse with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant than they were when they had Devin Booker and Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges, and it was just like wing after wing after wing after wing, and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, who still cared about winning. But yeah, he is like exactly who I would want. The other player who I am always going to wish the Lakers could find a way to bring back is Caruso. He and Reeves would be a hilarious tandem for all kinds of reasons. Yeah, that's how I'll put it. For all kinds of reasons, they would be a hilarious tandem. Just watching them like wreck Indiana and Boston and Utah and watch all of those fans be super duper like confused on how they should feel watching those guys play. That's what I would love to watch. But also because it's a great combination, right? It's you have Alex Caruso who can make up for Austin's defensive deficiencies. You have Austin who makes up for Alex's offensive deficiencies. You have two guys who really get after it and compete. You have two big game players in your backcourt as well. So that would be so like, man, if they could find a way to do that. Now, we saw at this deadline that the Bulls were not interested in moving him. Now, would they be more interested in moving him as they head into a year where he is going to be an expiring player? Maybe, but I think like I think that if you get Caruso, you would probably be getting him later in the year, closer to the deadline, waiting for the Bulls season to once again be stuck in, I have the hiccups, stuck in mediocrity. And, if they finally decide to tear it down, that's when I think you could get Caruso. It'd be really difficult, I think, to get him this upcoming summer. The Bulls have a player option on him somehow. His agent, man, I have thoughts. And the Lakers, by the way, letting him walk so that he could sign that contract somewhere else when he was willing to take less than that to be a Laker still. Anyway, yeah, those are the two guys that I have my kind of eye on this year, even if both are kind of unlikely. I would much rather go out and get one of those guys or if you could try to find a way to get both. I don't think you can because it's gonna like both guys are gonna cost you 2 first-round picks, and the Lakers only have one. But if the Lakers were somehow able to get both, they would be championship favorites next year. If you're able to go into next season with some combination of Reeves. Now, if you get Caruso, you're probably giving up something, right? You might have to give up Reeves for Caruso. But if you go into next year and you have Reeves and Caruso and Bridges and LeBron and AD, and that's like your finishing lineup with a touch of Rui here in there as well, a big helping of Rui in there as well. You would probably give up Jared Vanderbilt in that situation for one of those guys. You would probably give up D'Angelo Russell for one of those guys. Probably give up JHS. And again, those 3 first-round picks that the Lakers have in the future, those are all gone. So you're basically going all in for one last chance, basically, to win a championship with LeBron on your roster. But you could do way worse than that. Again, it is not it's not probable. I'm not even necessarily sure it's possible, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna dream. All right, I see one more here, which means we get to play this one more time. Oop. Rye Guy asking, did you see the viral video of LeBron disgusted with Ham in the huddle and walking away once again? Yeah, I was added in that with that clip. Maybe I'll try to filibuster and see if I can find it. on in my likes or whatever. That sounds bad. As if like I liked that video. No, I liked the tweet with the intro with the possibility of coming back to it. But essentially, I saw the video. There are several versions of that video. It's a thing. It's been a thing all year. The guys on this roster don't respect Darvin in the way that you would normally respect a head coach. They don't trust him to make the right decisions. And they just, it's the vibes, as far as, I don't have it in I didn't like the video. My bad, everybody. But it's not, it hasn't been good. Those vibes haven't been good. There isn't, like, you watch good teams, right? And by the way, like, this happens all the time across the league. Typically on bad teams or teams that don't love their head coach. But like, you watch a Miami Heat huddle, and generally speaking, if it's a late game situation and Spo is drawing something up, or one of Spo's assistants are drawing something up, you have like all hands on deck, all eyes squared on that drawing board. You have, everybody is focused on at the task at hand. And you watch, I've had multiple people who've, watched the Lakers all season, whether it's from close or afar, is how I will put it. And they will say that the huddles are a mess, that people go and come as they please, and they basically just kind of get whatever hydration or sports drink that they need, catch a breather, and then head back out onto the court without really taking into account what Darvin has said. And it's only gotten worse over the course of the season, mostly because like his messaging has been far too consistent, in that it's a lot of like, you have to run harder, and you have to be more engaged, and you have to be more disciplined. And eventually people just kind of tone that out, especially as as they haven't seen the type of actual adjustments that you would like to see from your head coach. Rather, they just keep on getting told over and over and over again, this is what you're doing wrong, not this is what I could be doing to help you guys here in the spot. And they've completely tuned them out. So that video that I got there didn't surprise me. I reported that kind of stuff going on way back in like January, maybe even earlier. It hasn't been good for a large chunk of this season. I would go so far as to say that like 75% of this season, the guys have not really fully been on board with Darvin. He lost them early with all of like benching Austin and benching D'Lo and benching Rui and not benching Cam fast enough and not benching Torian fast enough and all of these things. Like the guys, tuned him out pretty quickly, and he hasn't done enough even after starting Ham finally, or starting Rui finally, to get those vibes back. So I wish I could report better stuff, but that's just the reality, and it's out there for you guys to see it. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lowdown podcast. Longer one here, as we had two big subjects to spend some time on and a whole bunch of great questions. Thank you, everybody, for the amount of questions that we got, whether they came in the form of a 5-star review on iTunes. Please get me more of those. Those really, really help the show. And also in the form of these super comments, which I also am just blown away by the fact that you guys are willing to help us out in that way and help us grow this thing in that way as well. But yeah, thank you a ton for the listens, for the views, for the subscriptions, for the likes, for all of those things. And here's the plan. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to Sabrina about this season and about the women's basketball tournament and women's basketball kind of moving forward. Had a cool announcement today, right? That like more than half of the Indiana Fever's games are going to be nationally televised. That's pretty smart by the WNBA. So we'll talk about that. And obviously I love Sabrina's thoughts on the Lakers. So we'll talk obviously about the Lakers. That's what you guys come here for anyway. And then Friday, Aaron and I had a bit of a mix-up today, but Friday he will be on the happy hour, and he and I will do. Maybe I'll bring back the hook, the old hook intro, and maybe I'll even put the hook background up for the YouTube crowd as well, to get a little blast from the past there. In a glass too, as hopefully he and I are both holding a nice adult beverage to round out our work weeks. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying, have a great rest of your day, make somebody else's, and I will talk to you manana. Have a good one, everybody.